Hi everybody, welcome to my next movie review. This next movie review, it's a film from 1992, and this movie is absolutely hilarious. It's a guy or a girl flick. I mean, a guy can rent this, or if he owns it in his collection, play this for a woman. I mean, granted, it shows, a couple women being catty over a guy, and well, considering who the guy is in the movie, if he didn't look like such a dork and look like he normally does, I'd be fighting for him too if I wasn't married. I mean, he's not bad looking. I mean, he doesn't hold a candle up to my favorite actor, Antonio Banaras. It's like, woof. But it's this movie from 1992. Death Becomes Her. It's got Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, and Bruce Willis in it. Bruce Willis, this is him in the middle. And of course, Meryl Streep in the red and Goldie Hawn in the white. What it is Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn play Madeline Ashton. That's Meryl Streep's character. And Goldie Hawn plays Helen Sharp. Well, it starts off at the beginning of the movie back in the 1970s where Madeline sees Helen and Helen's fiance, plastic surgeon Ernest Menville, who's of course played by Bruce Willis. Well, what happens is Madeline steals Ernest away from Helen, and Helen becomes depressed, obese, and is arrested and then thrown into a mental institution to help rehab her. Well, because, Helen's consumed with thoughts of revenge against Madeline. And, what winds up happening is, 14 years later, after 1978, Madeline has turned Ernest into a drunk and a high-end mortician, and poor old Ernest is just, browbeat by Madeline because Madeline's unhappy. What happens is Helen has pulled it together because, while she's in the mental institution, she works with a psychologist who's played by the late Alana Reed Hall, who the psychologist tells Helen, you need to eliminate whatever your hang-up is and get over this and just move on with your life. And it's like Helen's like, you're right. And she's just like, wow. And what happens is after all this time, Madeline and Helen see each other again, and Madeline makes a crack about the fact that Helen's chunky, or was chunky at one point, and Madeline sees a woman with her back turned and says, "Oh, it looks like she's lost some weight," and then the chunky woman steps aside, and there stands Helen, thin, beautiful, and happy, and Madeline's like, "Holy cow!" And Madeline's all jealous. Well, later that night, after the party and everything, Madeline goes and sees a boyfriend of hers who's a lot younger. I'd say the guy was probably in his early 20s, whereas Madeline's probably in her 40s. To be called a panther today, or whatever they call him. And the guy tells her, after Madeline discovers this guy's got a young lady in his place, he's like, we look stupid together. People are saying, it's a cougar. I'm sorry, not a panther, it's a cougar. He's like, women, people are saying that you and I look awful together. Get somebody your own age. And, he really hurts Madeline's feelings. And she walks away. And ends up at Isabella Rossellini, who is very hot in this movie. And even I think she looks good in this movie. And for a woman to say that, that's saying something. Well, and Isabella's character, who is called Lisle von Rhoman, tells Madeline that, look, you can drink this potion and live forever and have, a young body and all this stuff. And, she drinks it and turns back into a young lady. Well, eventually she goes back home and Ernest pushes her down the steps, kills her. Well, and they end up, it's just this big funky mess. And then after a while, what winds up happening is, that, Ernest realizes what's going on, and, he realizes that Helen and Madeline have both drank the same potion. They're now immortal and dead. Quite dead. And they're stuck on themselves still. Well, he fixes them up and then splits. Well, several years later, in 2029, Ernest has died. And Helen and Madeline are at his funeral. And they're faced with a different concept of immortality when the preacher talks about the fact that Ernest lives on through his family and his good deeds and everything. And, he tells these stories about the living dead in, Beverly Hills or something like that. And what happens is at the end, they get outside and they're literally falling apart. You can tell. And what happens is they're arguing over a can of spray paint. And what happens is Helen trips over this missing can of spray paint, falls backwards down the steps, jerks Madeline down the steps with her. And what happens afterwards is pretty funny. I'm not going to ruin the ending for you. But anyway, I do highly recommend this movie, Death Becomes Her, for guys or girls. I mean, you will definitely get a really wicked good laugh. I mean, because it shows, vanity at its worst. I mean, there are some women and some men who will do just about anything to stay young and beautiful. I mean, time marches on, and as Dolly Parton says in Steel Magnolias, sometimes it marches across your face. Well, anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching. I've got a couple more movie reviews to do here, and I'll be right back, okay?